All right, hello Speed Gaming, and welcome to a Super Metroid Randomizer showcase for today. My name is Kip. I am joined by Mass Hysteria. Mass, how are you?
Hey, I'm doing good, Kip. Glad to be here today to check out this new changes we've got for the Dash Randomizer.
Yeah, so the reason we're doing a showcase today is because myself, Mass here, and a few of our other dev team members, Cassidy Moen and Papa Schmo, we have been working really hard for the last couple of months on a new mode for the Dash Randomizer. We're calling this Dash Recall. There's a lot of changes, some new items and new areas. And so, yeah, we wanted to do a showcase race for everybody today, and we're going to get that started here in just a minute. So before we get started, Mass, why don't you start? You don't have to mention everything, but why don't you mention a few of the big changes we have here?
Well, so a couple of the big changes that we were looking for with Recall. Kip and I talked about this a lot, and there was an objective to try to add a little bit of flexibility to vanilla map. And I know you'll talk about that a little bit more, but one of the ways that we're accomplishing that is through the introduction of a couple of new items. And so before everybody panics and says, "What do you mean new items?" So basically, these are light versions of some of the existing items in the game. So, for example, there's a new item called Heat Shield, which is kind of like a light version of Variasuit that only works, only gives you full heat protection in Upper Norfair and 50% heat protection in Lower Norfair. Additionally, we have a new gravity suit light item called Pressure Valve, which in the West Meridia area gives you full movement capability. But then later Meridia, it still requires gravity suit to get that kind of ability. And finally, we have a new one called Double Jump, which is like Space Jump, except you only get one extra jump.
That's right. So basically, we have three new items that are going to provide some flexibility and allow a little more options for the logic. But more importantly, Dash is geared towards being a competitive racing randomizer. And so almost every design choice that we ever make is geared around what kind of positive impact can this make on the game theory of actually playing Super Metroid Randomizer? So we're getting ready to go here. We have two really, really great Super Metroid Randomizer players being on Restream for this race. Quick notation, we do have several other runners in the race, but only two on the Restream. And we're going to have another showcase tonight at 9 p.m. Eastern as well. But basically, everything that Mash just went over in terms of the new items, we rolled a completely random seed. We did not select a seed for this by hand. So it is certainly possible that none of the items we just mentioned end up making a big impact on this particular race. But also, we don't want the new items to completely dominate every single seed anyway. So we're just looking for more flexibility and racing options for different competitive routes. So yeah, Zeb and Farfelu are both very experienced runners. And look at this. One of the new items is the first item listed. We promise we did not select the seed.
That's so funny.
There's that Heat Shield item. And what Heat Shield does is it provides 0 defensive boost to like damage, but it will stop heat damage by 100% in Upper Norfair and 50% in Lower Norfair. So it puts those Lower Norfair hell runs a little more on the table, depending on what other items you have. And it also can affect, how you route things. So it's really interesting that we get a seed with that near the beginning. That's pretty exciting.
Yeah, so in addition to those new items, one of the staples of Dash has always been the starter charge beam, which is a version of the charge beam that you have at the very beginning of the game, to where you're basically allowed to do charge shots, but they only do normal damage, right? So there's no boost for those starter charge shots. But in Recall, we've actually also revamped the beam damage system, and we've introduced multiple beam upgrades as part of that. So now within the game, instead of there being one charge beam that the players could find now, there's now actually 4 charge upgrades that give you various boosts to your charge damage along with the regular beams. Do you want to talk about any of that beam table stuff?
Yeah, I'll just make it kind of quick so we can kind of focus on the race here. But we basically did a complete and total revamp of the beam damage system overall, mainly because there are a lot of things I think about the old model that are really out of balance. So plasma has been nerfed a good bit, although I still think it's actually very powerful in this. But the main thing to look for is look at the top right of the HUD. Right next to the map, right now you'll see a 20. That's the current damage that a player's charge shot would do. So no matter what all beams they pick up, they will always be able to know on screen exactly how much damage they're doing. But not only have we revamped the damage values of some of the beams, we actually have 4 charge beam upgrades that will actually continue to bump up your damage. But we have capped the maximum damage you can ever do with a charge shot in Dash Recall to 500 damage, which is lower than the 900 you could do in vanilla if you had all the right items. And on top of that, it actually takes a lot more item pickups to even reach that. So one of the things that I really, really like about what Recall has brought to the table is there have been an uptick in more complex Ridley fights, as well as longer Mother Brain 2 fights, which has been really great to see. So with all that being the case, we'll kind of talk about the changes a little bit as we go. We also want to focus on the race. What we have aimed at doing is, again, sort of trying to look at vanilla map and opening it up for various routing opportunities that didn't exist prior. And some of these new items are necessary to sort of help us open that up.
Now, for the race, I do like the fact, I know you and I were probably both hoping for this, that we got some divergence early on, right? So we've got Zeb going mean route, farfelu going back up to the top. So. Oh,
and yeah, we probably ought to mention, because we've added 4 charge beams and these 3 new items, we actually only removed, I think, 4 items from the game. But what we've done is we've rebalanced the major locations a little bit. So traditional major minor comes with 3 changes here. Number 1, the Kraid energy tank is no longer a major item. So we've removed that one, but we've added 3 other ones. We now have 36 total majors locations instead of 34. What we've added in is there is now a major at the wreck ship Sky Missile. There is a major at the lower Norfair Mickey Mouse Room. And there is a new major at the Meridia watering hole. And all of those work in logic with the new changes to the new items. So sometimes the new items, such as pressure valve, are legitimately a progressive item or progression item, etc. So yeah, a lot of things to get excited about. And in fact, if you don't mind, what I'll mention is I think Zeb's probably going to go up. It remains to be seen what he's going to end up doing when he gets up there. But that heat shield does make it a little bit enticing to potentially go down. But because there's so many routing opportunities, they're going to have a lot more junctures for decisions than you normally would in the past. Tell us a little bit, Mass, just for a second, kind of shout out our other members of the dev team, because there's a couple guys, in addition to, myself and you, who have put in a lot of work. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually grab the Dash Discord link and put it in the chat for anybody who wants to join the Discord and come in and check out what we're doing.
Great. Yeah. So we've early days of Dash, Kip and I kind of worked on this stuff. He recruited a few people to help along the way. But recently, Cassidy Moen and Papa Schmo both came on the team to start working with us, and have really added a lot to the team. In particular, I gotta give Cassidy. I know he's in the chat. I gotta give him some credit. Cassidy works a lot in the Z3 community and is in my opinion assembly kind of master. For those of y'all that don't know, programming for a really old system like the Super Nintendo is not always as easy as it seems. But we've got a great team in place, and we were able to really, in short order, get a lot of these changes put in. When Kip and I first talked about these, I said, well, yeah, we can do all this stuff. I just don't know how long it's going to take because, we all have lives and jobs and things like that. But Cassie came in with a lot of great ideas from some things that they've done over at Z3, including a complete restructuring of how we organize all of the code for the actual game assembly code itself. And so with all of that and a bunch of great work from everybody, we really got this thing going in just a couple of months. And so now we see the racers, kind of like Kip said, we see them maybe kind of both hitting opposite directions from each other. So now Zeb's going to go back up, probably check, I don't know, maybe check Gauntlet, maybe not, maybe go straight on to wreck ship. And we'll see farfelu here doing the normal Brent Star loop.
Yeah, thank you for explaining all that, Mass, while I was in there. I just put a Discord link to our Dash server for anybody who wants to join. One thing I will mention, I think Mass didn't give himself enough credit too. Cassidy has done some truly, truly amazing things. Papa Schmo has really been helping out a lot with the visuals and the web design stuff, which we're going to continue to upgrade. But Mass has done a lot of work himself and really come up with some great ideas. So basically, like, not only are we excited about what we're continuing to implement, but one of the things that we're also excited about is we think that we can make it easier for community members to offer suggestions. So we want Dash, like, obviously, you know, we as the dev team are always going to make final choices about what's going to be implemented for racing purposes, but we're also interested in seeing what other people's ideas are because we feel like we can implement them a lot quicker now. And we're hoping that over time, it's going to be a true community representation of, you know, the items and the ideas of what people have for what kind of racing we want to have for this. With that said, though, we still have a lot of other ideas to go, and obviously there's a lot of other randomizers that exist for Super Metroid that are very, very good. Part of our decision to even attempt to rebalance vanilla was based on how much fun we had with the Varia randomizer. The guys over there created something called Area Rando, which mixes up the map a lot, and the game theory on that was significantly better than vanilla. So some of that was part of the inspiration for going back and looking at how we could, you know, use our creativity to rebalance the vanilla map. But anyway, now that we've kind of explained everything, we're just going to kind of let you guys enjoy the race, and we're going to sit here and talk about what the racers are doing. It looks like Zeb is going to do early wreck ship, which now has 5 majors in it. Although there is some cool divergence that can happen because 3 of the 5 are actually kind of longer checks that you have to make at the top. So hopefully he'll be able, he didn't end up getting, I don't think, a movement item to actually get over the moat easily, but he's going to try to CWJ this. Hopefully he'll be able to get it fairly quickly. And then if there's a powerful item up here, it might set him up to be faster later. In the meantime, it looks like, oh, very nice, Zeb. In the meantime, looks like farfelu is going to go down with that heat shield and see what he can get at Kraid and Spazer.
So interesting. So we got the space jump there. You know, getting space jump really early can oftentimes make a really big difference, right? Like later in the game, you know, for runners at this level, it doesn't really seem to matter. But this could be a pretty big edge early game.
Yeah, the interesting thing too is depending on what items are here, it'd be kind of difficult, I think, for us to explain the implications of every new item and change we put in, because let me just tell you, as someone who has been on the you know, at the forefront of the Super Metroid randomizer competitive scene for a long time, I promise you the changes that we've put in, there are a lot more new opportunities and routing decisions that can be made within this. Like, for example, if Zeb ends up finding pressure valve or gravity up here, he can actually route through Meridia backwards. That's something that you literally would never do in a previous, you know, vanilla map major minor. But if he does do that, he would probably not backtrack for the Spazer item, which was space jump. So there's a lot of really interesting things. One of the goals that we have is obviously you can't make it to where every single seed can have multiple pathways that are equally competitive or within a certain range of being competitive with each other. But this has way more options than traditional major minor. And that also kind of fits what we were trying to do with Dash to begin with. So we'll kind of see what's at the wreck ship and see how it affects Zeb's decision moving forward and whether he ends up going back for that Spazer or not.
Got a nice Kraid quick kill. Looks like maybe 3 round coming from Zeb, so.
Oh, Plasma Beam. Hopefully finding the most powerful item in the game. Notice his beam damage is going to jump to 100. Top right, it's going to go from 20 to 100. So that is actually the cap. 100 is the cap for regular beam damage in this. We've nerfed Plasma down. You can reach regular beam cap either by getting Plasma by itself or by getting Ice Wave Spazer. That combination is also worth 100. At this point, the only way that farfelu could increase his charge damage is by picking up additional charge upgrade items. There's 4 of them in the game, and from now on, every time he gets one, it'll bump his charge beam damage by 100. So right now, he's doing 100 every time he uses a charge shot, and we'll see if he picks up any more along the way. This item that farfelu's picking up used to be a major, but now it is a minor item, and that's for balance and routing purposes. but it's still a good room to go into because you get those power bombs. So let's see what Zeb gets here at the wreck ship.
Ooh.
Well, that is a big pickup. So, gravity suit, one thing to know about it relative to Dash, one thing that makes Dash unique for balance purposes with suits is that the defensive properties are actually different than vanilla and the other randomizers that exist. Gravity is actually going to provide a 25% damage reduction to heat damage. However, it's not going to stack with heat shield. So basically, Zeb isn't going to get any additional heat reduction from that. But I've already run a bunch of test seeds, and there are sometimes seeds that I hell run without Varia and without heat shield. But that 25% still kind of looms large for some of your routing decisions. On top of that, the defensive properties are actually cut in half. So Varia and Gravity both each provide 50% defensive, reduction to enemy damage as well as environmental. So from this point forward, if Farfelu doesn't go back up and find that Gravity, Zeb will have some defensive properties that Farfelu will not. However, it is not impossible for Farfelu to find some items that will help him potentially do Suitless Meridia. So there's still a lot of routing options on the table here.
So the interesting thing now is going to be, which way does Zeb go?
Yeah, now that he's got the gravity suit there, he can actually route this backwards on the way out. Looks like he's going to do it. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, we promise we did not hand select the seat, but this is working out perfectly. I made a joke with Mass before we did this today. I was like, it'd be cool if we could get like a good seed, but at the same time, we don't want to like hand pick one and make it seem like a plandomizer. But I was like, maybe we'll get lucky and the items will be in a place to showcase some of the changes. So this routing that Zeb is taking right now would never, ever, ever be something that a competitive player would do in vanilla map. But now that we've made some changes to the locations, Zeb can use this gravity suit to actually get to the plasma and shack tool locations early. And there are no items required to get to the shack tool location. And also the plasma door is going to be open before Dragon's even dead. So these are two items that can be routed in that they're no longer straight up gamble home run items. These are legitimate items that can be routed in and be competitive with other routing situations. So this is going to be really interesting to see. Notice that Farfelu is not taking damage from the heat. He's taking damage right now in the lava, but when he gets out of the lava, even though he doesn't have Varia suit, he's going to take 0 heat damage in upper Norfair. However, if he goes to lower Norfair with it, he will take 50% heat damage. Looks like Zeb is probably going to route in Shack Tool first. At least I hope he does. I hope he showcases it. It's going to be funny. Okay, looks like Zeb is making the choice to do a super early Dragon. So he's actually going to do some stuff in Meridia backwards. This is really interesting because if Varia suit, for example, somehow ends up at Space Jump, this could end up being like the craziest god route of all time.
Now, the funny thing is Zeb doesn't know. He can't listen to the stream, so he may think that we planned this seed out, and so he's like, okay, what would be the trolliest thing to do?
Oh, we also need to mention, this was not originally in Dash Recall, but after several players tested, we took their feedback and made a change. The reason that Zeb can go over here without killing Botwoon is because we made that door to Cack Alley blue as well. And so basically, you can speed up how quickly you approach Dragon, but the counter part of it is you end up skipping a bunch of the Meridia items. So Zeb isn't really taking a risk right now. He's just routing in a way that never would have been possible in the past. How aggressively he chooses to do it, we'll see. Farfelu finally getting a charge upgrade, so his damage is going to bump up to 200 up there, and every one that he gets after this will bump him up by 100. Based on the fact that he has plasma, but each combination of different, we basically rebalanced the whole beam system. Every combination of beams and number of charge upgrades is a different value. But instead of making players memorize it, we put it on the HUD because we felt like that would be a better thing to do. So Zeb does have a pretty interesting fight here, though. Remember that he's only getting 50% damage reduction. So every time he gets hit by Dragon, he's actually taking 80 damage. So he can't pseudo screw Dragon with impunity, but he's also having a little bit slower of a fight because he's kind of doing a somewhat similar to low ice kind of situation. He's unloading as much ammo as he can, but that was actually pretty fast. Good job.
Yeah, well, what we would call that is the intended strat for killing.
Oh, right. Okay, I got you.
For killing Dragon.
I got you. Farfelu's in an interesting position because Farfelu is not going to find Gravity Suit, but at the same time, even if Farfelu doesn't find Varia, it is actually possible to successfully navigate Lower Norfair with Heat Shield like this. However, it's very, very dangerous to do the lava dive without Gravity Suit because you have to do a high jump bootless lava dive here, and you'd be taking a lot of damage to the power suit. But it is possible, and the reason I know it's possible is because I did it for the first time earlier today on my stream. So, however, it does end up leading to usually a pretty slow Lower Norfair. So another one of those things where I really like when routing efficiency comes with a drawback. So you can take the most aggressive route possible, but it might actually be that your skill is required to mitigate that in some other way in the zone that you're in. So it looks like Farfelu might be heading to Croc to see if he can pick up something else that might make potentially going straight to Lower Norfair a little bit easier. But we know that he's not going to find that Gravity Suit. What do you think is going to be down here in the Croc location?
That's a tough call. I would assume I would think something like maybe a high jump boots.
Ooh, there's an X-ray. Looks like Zeb is going to skip that though. Ooh, Spazer. Spazer is not going to bump Farfelu's damage. In fact, if you look at the top right, it's going to lower it by a little bit. I'm sure he will put plasma back on at some point. But yeah, Spazer is a progression item though. It does allow to break the blocks at Waterway, and it does allow to break the blocks at, or you can use it in Botwoon's Hallway. It's an additional progression item in addition to ice and speed in those locations. What is Zeb going to find here? Zeb finds a charge upgrade. So there's one of the 4 upgrades. I'm hoping Farfelu finds something interesting down here at Croc that would help him out. At this point, though, it really just depends on how comfortable he is. I almost feel like the only item that could be here that would legitimately make him consider doing Lower Norfair would be Varia. Screw attack would be extremely helpful. Grapple would be helpful, but I don't know if they'd be helpful enough. Mainly because the lava dive is still incredibly dangerous. Once you get into Lower Norfair, it's not quite as bad. Ooh, speed booster. This is a really interesting seed so far.
It is. I'm also interested in, we've got this new opportunity to go in Meridia the way that Zeb did, but he's still, he's abandoning a ton of stuff.
He is. Zeb is abandoning a lot of things.
Like, I figured he would have routed in plasma, maybe spring ball, but no.
Listen, what I predicted earlier came to pass, and I actually think this is a good thing in terms of, you're getting multiple. Again, our goal with a lot of this is to keep it vanilla map, but make it to where there are way, way, way more decision points that you can make for the meta of how you want to approach the race. Zeb made a point to not backtrack to Spazer, so he's going to miss that space jump, and if he doesn't go back there, he's not going to have it. So he's going to save some time in terms of not heading back there, but he's going to miss out on the value of it. But the reason he even got put in that position to begin with was because he was allowed to take a route outside of wrecked ship that in the past would have been literally impossible. In the past, you literally would never skip Spazer because you'd be forced to come down Red Tower and then you would pass it on your way to Kraid. So, decisions.
Yeah.
Also, shout outs to Speed Gaming for getting our new items on the tracker. You can see that, heat shield is in the place of various suit. If they find Vari, it'll upgrade. Same thing with pressure valve and gravity. But look at the charge beam at the top. You literally start with 0 charge beams, but you still have the starter charge. The number beside the charge beam is the number of upgrades that you've picked up. So as you can see, Zeb has found 2. And farfelu has found 1 so far. Looks like farfelu is now heading back up. I would assume he's going to check X-ray and then make a decision from there.
Yeah, this is an interesting seed.
It is. I got to give edge to Zeb right now. Again, even though we want more diversity and potential routing, it doesn't mean that every seed is going to have, truly competitive multiple routes. Zeb's definitely got a routing advantage in terms of going up, getting that gravity, and then never backtracking. But at the same time, it might that routing might end up causing him to not seek out certain other items that farfelu got. So I wonder how much value Farf is going to get out of like space jump and speed booster for the rest of this run.
Yeah, now we can assume that Zeb is probably baited into trying this lower Norfair, right?
Yeah, well, I mean, it's not, and I don't think it's a bad thing. I actually think it's a good decision. Being able to not take that much damage, gravity jumping into lower Norfair makes it way, way, way less dangerous, because once you get down there, that 50% heat damage reduction, it doesn't make it free. Don't get me wrong. And the reason I know it's not free is because even in our original dash from several years ago that we've raced a lot, gravity suit in that had 50% heat reduction, and a lot of people in races still tried it and got in there and died. So it doesn't make it free, but it definitely makes it a lot more manageable. It just kind of depends on what your other items are. The other problem, though, is that Zeb doesn't have screw attack, but he does have plasma, and that's another one of those things about plasma that makes it more powerful, even more powerful, I think, than people realize. Its ability to protect you in lower Norfair is very high. So that, if I were in his position, I'd be more likely to try it based on the fact that I had the plasma beam.
Yeah, that is a good point, and I know you and I talked about that a lot, and I think you were like even considering nerfing plasma even more just because of
yes.
how good it can be in places like lower Norfair.
We have nerfed plasma a lot in this, and I still think it might be on the possibly too powerful side, but let's just put it this way. I think it's in a much better position or much better state right now relative to game theory than it's been in the past. Once again, for anybody out there interested in checking out Dash Recall and seeing what all we got going on, or testing some seeds and giving us some feedback, I'm going to post our Discord into the chat, and feel free to join.
Yeah, and Kip's mentioned this, but we've already gotten some really good ideas from some of the runners. Whenever we started doing early testing of this, a few people, Zeb was one of them, was like day one, like, hey, we gave you 5 seeds, and like, a couple hours later, he's like, all right, I need more seeds. So I mean, and he was able to give us some good ideas as well as some other folks, and we've been able to add some of those into the game really quickly. So what we'd really love is if people keep running stuff, if people have ideas, shoot them in there. I think actually even yesterday there were some ideas getting posted on there, and I think I saw from Cassidy this morning he'd already put them in. So
right, yeah,
we're trying to move quickly here, and I think you said this before too, like, hey, initially we're throwing the kitchen sink in this thing. So some ideas, we may try them out and may determine everybody hates it. But yeah, we're not going to find out unless we try it.
That's true. We're not going to try every single idea that is suggested, but we're going to vet through as many as possible. And like we said, we've already been responsive to a lot of the sort of desires of some of the racers and community members. But yeah, at some point down the line, we would like for our Dash site to allow every single, for example, new item or new change that we put in to be a toggle, so you can decide for yourself what you want in and what you don't. But for right now, we kind of designed it with everything in mind, and we're using everything, and we're going to keep it like this for at least a few months Dash Recall is going to be used in the Rando League Season 4, which is going to be coming up starting here in like a week or two. And so we want there to be some stability in what it is. But we still want to get other people's ideas, because along the way we might try some experimental stuff that could be used in the future.
Yeah, that's a good point. Anybody that's interested in running some Super Metroid Randomizer, like Kip said, Rando League is going to be starting, and signups, I believe, are still going.
I think they closed yesterday.
Oh, I was one day late. Well, everybody should watch if you're not participating.
There you go. This is still really interesting. It feels as though Zeb is going to go ahead and collect wave and speed locations, trying to get whatever, like just in case there's any other powerful item like Berry or something like that could help in Lower Norfair. But then it wouldn't surprise me if Zeb went straight down into Lower Norfair after that. Whereas Farfelu literally just picked up Gravity, and he's basically in like complete go mode, because he doesn't have any other item that's mandatory, and he's got a decent chunk of energy. He could go straight back down to Lower Norfair if he wanted to.
And I think that's what's going to happen. I think he's going to go straight to Dragon, and
I think this might be a situation where nice strat, Farfelu, going through that spiky death rim. I think this might be a situation where I think the efficiency of Zeb's routing with Gravity specifically being at Wreck Ship might be too much to overcome. Even though, Farfelu does have Speed Booster and Space Jump, you also got to remember that he had to invest some extra time to get those items, particularly Speed, because Croc's a little bit slower of a check. I think it was at Grapple anyway. So I don't know from this point forward. It'll be hard to tell if he'll be able to like catch up with the items that he has, although I do think he will gain time on Zeb. But Zeb's routing here has been almost to the extreme of efficient for what Recall is. But, it's that whole thing with the meta, right? It's like, even if you have the most efficient routing, that also means you're probably sacrificing some power-ups. So we'll see. We'll see what happens here moving forward. Plus, for a Recall seed, like the number of supers available in all Dash seeds is actually a good bit lower than most of the other randomizers. They're not super rare, but we try to limit the supers because too many supers in a randomizer, I'm not going to say it's a bad thing, but it definitely has a great impact on how a player chooses to route in minor items and how many they want to pick up, and how it, interfaces with only having one charge beam in the game or not. But in this particular seed, let's just put it this way. There have been more supers readily available than average. Most of the time in Dash seeds, people don't typically have 40 seeds by this, or 40 supers by this point. All right, Zeb is going to attempt the Lower Norfair Hell Run. Remember that Gravity provides 25% heat reduction in Lower Norfair, and this first room counts as Lower Norfair. It's going to be very similar to the area randomizers that Varia have in terms of zones. The Gravity provides 25%, but the Heat Shield overrides that with 50%, and they do not stack. I think 75% would be too strong from a sort of game theory point of view. So right now, Zeb is taking 50% less damage than he normally would without Varia Suit in Lower Norfair. But it is, even though it's not going to be as dangerous, there's still a lot of things he needs to do along the way to manage it correctly. So let's see how his Hell Run goes. I think he's got enough supers. The supers are really the key here. Supers are like the strongest thing there is in Lower Norfair in terms of for time. So I think him having those supers is going to make things a lot better. But also, this is where the Plasma Beam is going to shine. Yep. Because even though he doesn't have Screw Attack, the utility of it in Lower Norfair can protect you from a lot of the Diskegas. And so it's like he's making this choice not just because he has Heat Shield, but because he has a combination of other items as well. However, this isn't going to be free. This is still a slow room here. Yes, Reigning Elementalist, I have thought about nerfing supers before, and every time I've thought about it, the next thing I think in my mind is I would really rather not be universally hated across the Super Metroid community. So, so I have left supers alone.
Now it is interesting though with the balanced beam system, the rebalancing of the beam system, supers become just even more important, right?
They do. You know what's really interesting here? Why is Zeb skipping? I think I know. You know what?
That was smart.
And on top of that, I actually made a reference to this when we first made this location, because during my initial test, I was a little concerned about making Mickey Mouse a major, because for hell run situations, it would increase the likelihood of a tank being there. But it doesn't guarantee it, and if he had gone for that right there and it hadn't been a tank, he literally probably wouldn't have been able to make it right here. That was a really fascinating choice. All right, is he going to get a tank here? Let's find out. Oh, ladies and gentlemen, this is why, yes, lower Norfair hell runs are more on the table than they've ever been, but they're not guaranteed, and you really got to make a lot of smart choices along the way, understanding how you want to approach it depending on the items you have. This is still a workable situation, okay? He's got plenty of ammo to Crystal Flash, and remember, he technically has twice as long as he normally would. Don't die, Zeb.
Okay.
But at the same time, it is going to be slower. So this is going to be an interesting situation.
Well, but you know, he really would have been stuck at Mickey Mouse. That was the real issue.
Why is that?
Because he doesn't have bombs.
Yeah, but he can drop a power bomb.
I know, but then it's just dicey, right? It's a little scary dropping a power bomb.
He would have had to have Spring Ball jumped out of the location, which is.
But he doesn't have high jump. I'm not sure that Spring Ball without high jump makes it.
It does if you do a Spring Ball jump. Like you have to literally time your jump where you jump, and then it's like really complicated. It's possible, but yeah, it's really tough. So I really like that. That was a smart move there by Zeb. Also, I gotta talk for just a minute about how happy this makes me, because I've taken a lot of criticism about people being like, oh, lower Norfair hell runs, they're just so free and dash, etc., etc. And then every time that somebody does one in a race, it always ends up like they're in a really dangerous situation or they even die. So I feel sort of vindicated here that he's actually having to work for it. This is nice. If Zeb had picked up that X-ray earlier, he would have been able to X-ray these pirates and taken basically 0 damage along the way and saved his supers. So that's another powerful, another reason that Plasma is so crazy powerful. Also, don't forget, gravity without Varia in this only gives 50% damage reduction as opposed to 75%. So he has to be even more careful. Like every hit that he takes is going to be twice as much damage as people would assume it would be in other randomizers or in vanilla. And I think that's good for balance. But man, he's in a tricky situation here. He's going to have to invest some time into farming these bugs to get up the supers and the energy needed to complete this. But I think he wants to farm up to 30. That's what I would do. I would want to avoid, not only in terms of the time it takes to kill Ridley, but also the complexity of the fight. I would want a 30 super fight here. Well, Mass, we talk about this all the time. The first question is can it be done, right?
Yeah.
The second question is how fast is it going to be, right? So Zeb has put himself in an aggressive situation, and he's handling it well, but at the same time, he's having to invest a lot of time into managing it.
I mean, we'll see. Like, there's some serious ground being made up right now.
Yeah, this is really fascinating. Because farfelu is going to be able to space jump through a lot of this stuff too, and he's also going to be able to pick up that Mickey Mouse item probably without any fear of any mess ups. Unfortunately, Farfelu took about 120 now about 150 damage, but it shouldn't matter.
Even this lava dive right here is going to be super easy.
Super easy, yeah. He's not even going to have to take his suit off, and he's not going to take hardly any damage.
Just don't hit.
Okay, at this point, Zeb does have enough to where if he had a 30 super fight, he should be able to get through it. As long as he doesn't take any damage from Ridley, he should be able to complete it comfortably. I think he's just trying to like get a little bit of extra here, because I guess he does know he's going to need some supers and stuff for the Crystal Flash on the way out. It also really depends on what's at the Ridley tank. If it's an energy tank, that makes the exit, I'm not going to say free, but it makes it significantly easier.
Yeah, certainly for a runner like Zeb, I think the energy tank is a pretty nice find.
For sure, but it could also be that, you know, this is why you have to be careful about your lower Norfair Hell runs. If you don't get energy tanks down here, you can be put in a tough spot. So let's watch this Ridley fight and see how it goes. And let's also check to see if Farfelu's going to check Mickey Mouse or not. I'm actually curious. Kind of feel like he might choose not to. No, he's going to check it. Ooh, Zeb took... Oh, there's the high jump boot. So he did not get an energy tank, but he did get another powerful item. Is he going to have enough energy to make it through? This is so much fun. Oh, there's that energy tank reward. Okay. So at this point, Farfelu is definitely a few minutes behind Zeb, and Zeb is now completely in go mode. The flip side is Zeb is still running on a relatively kind of low movement power-up loadout, whereas Farfelu has all of the major items. I would give the edge to Zeb here because I feel like he's far enough ahead to where those items will be less likely to be able to catch up. But I do think this is closer than it might appear. That's also a good point by Nizzle in the chat that if Zeb had gone there, the high jump boots would have let him get out.
That's true, yeah. Oh.
Hey, look at that. Look at that plasma saving a bunch of energy.
I'm just a little nervous about the no save.
By Farfelu?
Yeah.
He's playing it aggressively. I like it.
I mean, go big or go home, right?
Yeah, he unfortunately mistimed those plasma shots and took multiple hits from the ooh, and he didn't get that. He took spike damage there. He's gonna have to Crystal Flash again fairly quickly, which is gonna eat up a lot of his resources. So one quick reminder, and it's funny because this happened to me on my stream today, but one thing I like about Heat Shield is it gives 100% reduction in upper Norfair. So the hell run through lower Norfair is mitigated a little bit because when he finally gets, if Zeb can get through the Three Musketeers right here, he's home free because the next room he won't take any damage. In normal Super Metroid, that would be a room in which you would still take damage. Looks like Zeb is going to play it safe and do another Crystal Flash. Certainly don't blame him for doing that. He took the heat shield off so he can damage down a little bit faster.
Now, Kip, I don't know if you knew this, but that block that disappears right there, if you try to Crystal Flash exactly on that block, it won't work because you'll fall.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. It sounds like something people learn the hard way.
I may have learned that the other night. Aussie was sitting there watching, and he was like, yeah, saw it coming.
Yep, it happens. Oh, I forgot. Farfelu also has the grapple beam here. So he should be able to just directly go in, like, right now. He might want to get, like, one more super if he hasn't opened the door yet. But if I were in his position, I would go in immediately. and just hope to get a few power bomb drops from Ridley. All right, y'all. Well, this is it. All the bosses have been killed by Zeb. Farfelu is now on his last. Actually, I take that back. Yes, Farfelu is on his last boss. So Farfelu has more movement items, but I think Zeb is far enough ahead to where I think he's going to be able to maintain this lead. Although Zeb did lose a little bit of time via losing some of his ammo for the Mother Brain fight, because in Dash Recall, because you have typically a little bit weaker of a beam, those minor items you pick up along the way really help supplement the damage on Mother Brain. Nice fight, Farf.
Yeah, DJ Webb's right. I could easily see ice getting skipped and fire fleas for Farfelu.
That's a great point. I think Zeb's going to end up having to do some gravity jumps to get back to the surface here. It's actually interesting. I wonder if it would have been faster for him to have just gone straight up Red Tower. I doubt it, but it also depends on, like, if he happens to whiff on any of these gravity jumps. They can be pretty slow. We didn't get to see double jump in this seed, or at least from these players. It's possible another player picked up double jump. Our double jump item is just space jump, but you only get it one time, so you get like one extra spin jump in the air. And it is part of the logic that can be used. So we didn't see its use here, but luckily we did get to see Heat Shield being utilized, and we did get to see a lot of new routing. Haven't seen Pressure Valve either. Maybe tonight's race will feature Pressure Valve in some capacity, but again, we don't want the new items to be like mandatory every race. Sometimes you're going to get Barrier or Gravity early. I still think that's significantly better overall for the meta. We don't want things to... we want to avoid things being like, you know, oh, I have this item, so I do this other thing every time. So I'm happy so far with our test with where our new items are.
Yeah, that's a good point. And I mean, I think every person that comes in the chat initially asks the question of, oh, well, should it just always be progressive, right? Should it just always be you always find Pressure Valve first and then you find Gravity? And I think you're right. I think that it's a little more interesting if, hey, sometimes you just find the big dog first.
Right. One of the things I was mentioning on my stream today was I actually feel like if you make suits progressive, on the surface, it might seem like it might open up the meta a little bit. I actually think it narrows the meta because you're then forced to get two things every time. You know what I'm saying? But anyway, Zeb had a really nice gravity jump into a spring ball jump back there, which was pretty cool. I don't even think I've ever seen that before. But Farfelu is on his way out. He, again, has more items, but I still think Zeb is just too far ahead. Farfelu did end up picking up that Ice Beam, which is great. That's going to help him in Lower Norfair. All he's got to do is get past the Three Musketeers here, and he is home free.
Did Zeb take off Gravity?
He did, because he was trying to get the Crystal Flash set up correctly.
Huh. So now for everybody that's seeing this, Kip's mentioned we'd love it if you come check out the Discord. There's also on the Dash website, a big part of this was we did a big rework of the website. The people that did Dash or played Dash previously may have remembered that we had a standalone application, like a desktop application that you could use to generate your seeds, as well as the website. And really, it was they were a bit disconnected, and so we sort of made a commitment this go around to make it all on the website. So you can get on the website now, seeds actually generate 100 times faster than they used to on the desktop application, which is
Literally 100 times faster.
yeah, literally. I think we got another 10x coming too sometime, but yeah, literally 100x faster. So we would love it for people to come try that. But also, one of the things that Papa Schmo put in there for us was we have a nice interface from the generate page that kind of gives you like a readable version of the logic to look at, and that's something we're going to work on over time. We really want to make it easy for people to get on there and see, like, okay, what exact criteria do I need to have in order to get to this location or that location? So yeah, thanks. Kip got that post there on the site, but we really think that that's an area we can do a lot of work. And we got these new items and all of that, and we want to make it as easy for people to understand as possible. So be on the lookout for all that.
You can read about all the changes there at the Dash site. You can also find them in the announcements for when we announced everything within the last few weeks on the Dash Discord. But yeah, all the information that you need should be around. And we still have Standard Dash too. Standard Dash is just a sort of a traditional major miner like the other major miners, with a few tweaks to a few of the items, but none of this, sort of new items and new routing opportunities. Both are still great. In fact, we've been very happy with the way Standard Dash has performed in the past. It's actually led to, objectively, some of the most competitive races that I would say, percentage-wise, probably the highest percentage of competitive races of any of the randomizer modes that have been like in competition. Some of the other modes that I really love still have situations where there's less diversity possible with some of the seeds. Not that that's a bad thing. Sometimes it just comes down to kind of how the mode is set up, but we tried to open things up. So if you ever want to try Standard Dash, you can do it at that site as well. All right, Zeb's getting ready for Mother Brain 2, and he's going to be doing 400 damage per charge shot, but he's going to have a pretty fast fight because he's already got half of Mother Brain 2's health and supers alone. So this fight should be pretty quick. I would say this fight's going to be faster than your average recall fight.
Oh my gosh, I know. I've had some pretty terrible ones.
Yeah. Several people have died to Mother Brain 2 during testing, which I think is a good thing. It shouldn't be 100% free all the time. If you're going to skip items to go faster, there ought to be a somewhat of a price for that occasionally. Whoa, careful there, Zeb. Okay, we're good. He should be okay. He's going to have to use that reserve. He's forced to take 600 damage from the Rainbow Beam because he does not have gravity, or excuse me, Various Suit. But he had that reserve with 100 energy in it from the Crystal Flash, so that's going to protect him, and he's going to be able to get through, and looks like he's going to win this. He's going to win the one-on-one between him and Farfelu anyway, unless something goes wrong. As far as the rest of the runners in the race, we'll address that whenever we get to it.
Yeah, I guess you're still in the race. Like you can still see on there?
Yes, correct. We won't mention anybody else's results until we're done here, but yeah. And reminder, we will be back tonight on Speed Gaming here again at 9 o'clock Eastern. We'll have another race tonight. And from what I've been told, I think we're going to have 2 other really fun runners to watch race. So if you guys want to come check it out again, feel free to do so. It's going to be a lot of fun. But yeah, this has been I'm really happy with this first race. We saw 2 players doing very different things, getting very different sets of items, but still being, relatively competitive with one another. Really cool to see.
Yeah, and so the last thing I'll say on the somewhat technical side, if anybody's interested in trying it out, this also, you can generate recall seeds using the racetime.gg bot that Sinek maintains. That's another thing that we kind of, in the Super Metroid community, get to enjoy because of some of the Z3 work that's going on. So we've been working with him, and we've been able to get that out there. So just like the way this seed was run, if you want to get in here and race some of your friends, you can hop in there. The instructions or the bot will help you work it, but it's all in there and ready to roll.
Indeed it is. Well, both of these runners really played well, and it was really a lot of fun to see them utilize the new items and the new routing. And they both handled a really, I wouldn't say, like, this was not the most difficult Lower Norfair Hell Run situation I've seen, but they both handled it really well. Zeb had to spend a little more time down there because he did not have some of the items the farfelu had, but it turns out that the routing efficiency that he was able to produce ended up helping a ton. So this was a really, really fun race. I'm glad that we got to see something like this, where we got some utilization of some new items and some new routing to see a competitive situation. Very nice.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, good point, D-Web. That speed booster did help farfelu, but if farfelu had skipped it, it would be really, really interesting to see what the time difference would be here. But yeah, well run by both runners. This was a really, really good showcase. And it's funny, Mass, we talked about this beforehand. We were like, man, we're producing a random seed. It's going to stink if, like, it's some super easy seed that doesn't showcase any of the new stuff. But, even if it didn't, that's okay. Some of the seeds are going to be like that. We're not trying to, manipulate any particular results with all the new stuff we put in. But this turned out to be a really, really good showcase and two good performances by both runners.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right. Well, make the call, Mass.
All right. With a official time of 54:47, Zeb316 is our winner.
He indeed is. And I might as well spoil it. Zeb actually finished first place in the race overall. So congratulations to him for coming in overall first place. Not only in this Restream versus farfelu, but overall, great run. We should shout out Zeb too, because a lot of the feedback that we've been given has come from him and a few other people, and so some of the slight adjustments we've already put into the game since release have come from him. So, it's a community effort. We got to figure out what works for racing and what doesn't, and we want as many people contributing to that as possible. Oh, one final thing that I want to point out that we really like. You could consider this maybe like a small incentive system or something like that, but we were kind of tired of literally everybody getting the good ending every single time that they play Super Metroid Randomizer. So we have actually put in a change where if you finish the game RTA in 45 minutes flat, or excuse me, 44 minutes and 59 seconds or lower, which is very difficult to do. If you finish it that fast, you'll get the good ending. If you're 45 minutes flat to 59 minutes and 59 seconds, you'll get the fair ending. And if you're over an hour, you'll get the bad ending. So we're going to see a lot more of different endings in these seeds. So check out Zeb's screen when he gets there. We're going to get the fair ending, I think, here, where Samus gives the thumbs up in her suit, but she's got, I think, her visor open. Yeah, Zeb, you can come in for an interview. I don't know if you got an invite, but yeah, we'd love to interview you. And here comes farfelu, also having a really excellent performance. finishing with an official race time of 57 minutes and I think 25 seconds. GG Farfelu, excellent job.
Yeah, GG.
All right, there are still a few racers going in this race. Obviously, they're not going to be on the restream. Let's see if we can get Zeb and Farfelu in for an interview. Let me contact the Speed Gaming folks and see if we can get something going here.
And there we're joined by Zeb316. GG, Zeb.
Yeah, GG.
Yeah, welcome in, Zeb. First of all, I'd like to personally and publicly thank you for not only your contributions to testing a lot of seeds for us, but also giving us a lot of good feedback. We talked a little bit about how there's that fair ending. I love that. We talked a little bit about how along the way, you and a few other people have been some of the primary contributors to giving us some feedback and how we've made some changes to accommodate those. So thank you very much for helping us there. And then secondly, let's just talk about this seed in this race. Tell us a little bit about the choices you made, what you thought about it, and how you feel about it.
So I felt like the route that I took worked out really, really well for me. But I think that I played kind of badly, to be honest. I should have just springbolt jumped up to Norfair Reserve, but I was being stubborn and I was all like, no, I can get this wall jump, so I did that. And then I was actually going to be stubborn and more Norfair too, but like my health was low enough that I was all like, nah, I'm just gonna have to springbolt jump this instead of wall jumping. And then I went into Mickey Mouse, and I realized I wouldn't have been able to get out. I saw in the credits as high jump, so I actually would have been able to get out. But like I didn't know that. Like I couldn't have gotten the item because jumping off the crumble blocks doesn't get you enough height. I would have had to like springbolt jump off of them.
Yeah, and it's really tough.
So I really wanted that major, and I think I played Lore Norfair way too safe. Like I think that I farmed too much health before Ridley. I think I should have just gone in like on a lower health amount, but
well, I certainly don't blame you for being careful.
Yeah. I've found that farming like I did instead of waiting for the bugs to like come to you is slightly faster. In terms of like refilling your health and ammo. So I've been doing that a little bit when I've been doing these seeds with Suitless Lore Norfair.
Yeah, very nice. Also, welcome in Farfelu, GG to you as well. Thank you for participating today. You guys had a really, really interesting race, actually.
Yeah, thanks, GG, Zeb.
Yeah, GG.
And I'll also start by thanking you, Sorry, Zeb. I want to thank Farfelu too, because Farfelu has tested several seeds for us and given us some good feedback too. But yeah, tell us about what you did, Farfelu. How you felt about your race and your route today.
Well, seeing that he chilled first made me think, oh wow, no big decision at Red Tower today. I'll just go down and everything should be smooth from there. But I did not yet quite enough things to do the lava dive safely. So actually, I just got in the restream. I think Zeb did pretty much the same because I see he has gravity. So yeah, the main idea was to get just enough to survive lava dive and go to Lava Norfair, even if I don't have Varia. With heat shield and 70 tanks or something like that. From my experience, it's quite good. Well, should be better than going all the way up to wreck ship and then go down. But yeah, I was not feeling about the bootless dive. Oh, is it what you did?
No, I don't think that we did the same thing. Because I went meme route.
Okay.
And then I went to wreck ship first. And I got the gravity of right supers, and I went through Forgotten Highway to Dragon.
Yeah, this was one of those classic seeds. It was a lot of fun to watch. Like Zeb's routing, and I want to point out real quick, not to float the boat here of a dash recall, but the new routing opportunities that exist in certain situations that didn't exist in the past. Zeb got some extremely efficient routing, but Farfelu got way more items. Like by the end, Farfelu had speed, high jump, and space jump. It just turned out that in this particular case, the amount of time needed to go get those items and then also backtrack from Upper Norfair back to wreck ship ended up being a little too much to overcome. But it was really interesting to watch. For a while, we weren't sure exactly how it was going to pan out.
Yeah, I was planning on actually just checking right supers and then leaving wreck ship if but then I found gravity there and that changed everything. Like it made it so that I could go through the Forgotten Highway kind of a thing. And I was still thinking about just leaving and going down Red Tower again, but I decided to go through Forgotten Highway to like get a boss kind of out of the way on the way and route it pretty aggressively instead.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun to watch. I really enjoyed both of y'all having a lower Norfair hell run that, let's put it this way, it wasn't the easiest, or it wasn't the toughest, lower Norfair hell run of all time, but at the same time, it wasn't just like totally free where if y'all didn't make any mistakes, you couldn't get in trouble, right? So I'm really glad to see that even with, some strong items like plasma and several E-tanks, that it's not just like the default play 100% of the time and it's super easy no matter what. So I'm really happy with the results that I'm seeing in terms of actual practical application in the game. And also, it technically took y'all a little bit longer to get through Lower Norfair because you had to farm and Crystal Flash and do all that stuff.
Yeah,
so,
it took me a very long time. I felt like just with all the farming I had to do before Ridley, or like that I did before Ridley.
So just because you can doesn't mean it's always going to be fast, right?
Yeah, and any movement item other than just the spring ball that I had would have been really, really good down there too. Just didn't really have much in the way of that.
Well, I'll close with this. I'll give both of y'all a chance to talk real quick. Obviously, we've put in a lot of stuff in this that's different. There's a lot of changes, some big, some small, in terms of, the aim of getting a little bit more routing opportunity and flexibility and competitiveness for, obviously not every single seed that's going to be produced, but with a higher variety of seeds. And obviously you don't know for sure how everything's going to work out until you actually get it in game and get a lot of data from players back. But just generally speaking, what's been y'all's experience testing some seeds, and what are some things that you guys think are pretty cool, and then what are some areas where you'd like for us to look a little bit deeper at and see if we might make some adjustments?
I would say that I think it's really cool that there are like a lot of kind of different decisions you can make. Like I've had seeds where like I go kind of to wreck ship first, and then I have like 3 different decisions, kind of like I can go through like Forgotten Highway. Sometimes I go up just for sky missiles and then leave, and sometimes like I just leave wreck ship kind of a thing. Where I feel like in normal major minor you kind of have the decision to go up or down, and then you kind of are stuck full clearing wreck ship or like full clearing down. I feel like there's more like room to kind of abandon halfway through, or like more like different decisions you can make, I guess. I've liked that. I think that I'm not sure if this is a criticism. Like I'm not sure if I dislike this, but all the seeds have been really fast for me. Like they've all felt like 55 minutes or faster, about like around there. There are a couple of them that's slower, but and that makes it feel like when I like make a play that doesn't work out, it really is a lot more punishing, just because like the faster the seed is, the less time you have to like make mistakes.
That's true.
So,
well, farfelu, what about you?
I don't think I have the same experience as Zeb with those new dash. That race was definitely under my 10th seed I've done, so I'm not sure about all those changes, but I definitely like them all, because I think it's for a race you can be a bit more aggressive with those half suit or half upgrade, so you can, like I did, just, I could go check Rick ship, but that's only 3 major, and I already have each shield, so, well, what if Varya's on the way, and if it's not, well, it's fine, because I already have Plasma and a bunch of E-tanks, so I like having those kind of decision, and yeah, definitely, like you said before, Zeb routing seems a lot more efficient in this one, but even with the bad call I made going down Red Tower, clearing all Bubble Mountain, even killing Croc, I had to go back up and not go down, and I'm just 3 minutes behind, even less than 3 minutes, so maybe with a better execution, who knows? It could have been a lot closer than this, so that's what I like about this new dash.
Cool. Well, once again, I really appreciate you guys supporting us in terms of getting in and running some seeds, and also giving us, your feedback. Like I mentioned earlier, some of the feedback that we've already received from the community members about their perspective on it has really helped us make some decisions about what to do. But yeah, thank y'all so much for participating in this. And we'll kind of close it out there. Any final words, Zeb and farfelu, before we let you go?
Well, thanks for that showcase. That's really cool. I will be sitting out tonight for the second one, but I'll be watching. So thank you.
I would just say that I'm like excited that someone's working on kind of making vanilla randomizer a bit more interesting, or like not an area, I guess, randomizer. I would say that at this moment I still like prefer area to this, but like this is still like kind of being tuned and whatnot. And I've been enjoying doing all these dash seeds a lot too, so but some really interesting stuff you can do in them.
Good, thank you. And I agree with you. Area is my favorite type of randomizer as well. In fact, that's one of the sort of inspirations for us to even kind of go back and look at how can we get some, you know, when area, you just get way more decisions you get to make. So that was one of the inspirations for how can we look at vanilla map again and get it to maybe be a little more complex. But I agree, man. So yeah, we're happy to have this on as just an additional thing that people can learn. It's going to have its own meta, which I think is going to be pretty interesting. And hopefully we'll see it continue to evolve and develop. But Zeb and Farfelu, thank you so much. Mass, before we close out tonight, any final words for you?
Well, yeah, I just want to thank the runners. Thanks, guys, for coming out and do this. I'm looking forward to. I'm going to be also sitting out the next one. I've got a prior engagement, family stuff going on, but I'll be catching Kip and Cassidy doing comms tonight. And like Kip said, we should have some good racers for it. In general, the last couple months have been really exciting. A lot of fun, and so it's really great to see it out there, see it in the wild, people using it, and not just on our computers and our Super Nintendos. So. Right.
And again, before we close for today, I do want to give a very, very big public thank you to Mass, Cassidy, and Papa Schmo. Regardless of what anybody out there thinks about the randomizer, whether they like it or not, these guys have worked so hard on doing all kinds of things to get it off the ground. And I just want to talk about how much I really appreciate their work. It's been one of the most fun things I've done. I've been in the Super Metroid community for about 6 years now, and working with this dev team and how responsive and positive they've been about everything has been one of the most fun experiences that I've had. So thank y'all so much. Cassidy and I, one of the other dev team members, we will be back tonight at 9 p.m. Eastern on comms for another showcase. Anybody who's interested, you can join the Dash Discord. That's where we'll be making the announcements for the race tonight, or if you can find it on Race Time, you're welcome to join us, and we'll be back with another showcase. Thank you guys so much. I hope you have a great rest of your Saturday, and hopefully we'll see some of y'all tonight. See you next mission.